It is an astonishing pleasure for me to be here. I met 12 of you last year in Chongqing at the Women Vendors Exhibition and Forum. And I must say, and I'm being understated when I say this, it was astonishing to see how competent your delegation was. I probably embarrassed many of you today whom I met with briefly earlier as I was going on and on about what an amazing delegation K-Way fielded to that conference. But you really have such visionary leadership. You have people who are so strategic. And I think every time I have the privilege of being able to visit you, I will meet more and more high-powered, effective, women-owned businesses who are selling in more and more countries. And I must also tell you, in case you might happen to know it, what an astonishing leader you have that I had the privilege of working with last year with Sonia Reddick, who at all hours of the day and night was emailing me about your delegations. And you had, within 24 hours, all of you got your applications in. Within 24 hours, all of you had your visa requests in. It was astonishing. And I can tell you, there was no other country that had that degree of high performance. So thank you so much, Sonia, and thank you so much, Kobe, for being such a superb delegation. This year, we expect to see a number of you in Mexico City, but I've gotten ahead of myself right now. I'm going to back up a little bit. For more decades than I would care to confess to, I have been driven insane, I think we could say, by the reinvention of wheels in women's entrepreneurship at the global level. With every country, every city inventing things from scratch, because there's not a good mechanism for sharing ideas, content, strategies, and global best practice conferences on women's entrepreneurship. For many, many years, the whole world was focused on micro-enterprise and micro-credit for women's enterprise development. But people were not really adequately focused on what SMEs needed. Was access to markets. We got a global banking alliance focused on women-owned SMEs, organized in quite some time with your MOUs that you've signed with many important countries. In the U.S., we have had multinationals focused on working with American women-owned businesses for 15 years now. My organization, Quantum Leaps, which incubated We Connect International, was originally asked by the multinationals in the United States if we could help them with developing an international initiative to get women's businesses certified as 51% women-owned, managed, and controlled, because as the supply chains had been globalized, they realized it was absolutely ridiculous for them to only be sourcing in the United States when so much of their activities were in other countries. India was always one of the countries that they were very most interested in. Because of some legal issues, linguistic issues, etc., we decided originally to pilot in the UK and in Canada. As soon as we got those two models up and running in the NASCOM Diversity and Inclusion conferences, which Sucharita used to run, then we did a very, very bad thing. We stole Sucharita from NASCOM. Don't tell so little how mercenary we were about this, but we knew Sucharita was who we wanted to run the initiative. Who is in charge of the PowerPoint? I'd like to get.
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay. I'd like to get the logos up, Sucharita. These are the international members of We Connect International, and many of them were founding members of the organization. Many of them also are very, very active in India now. I think you'll recognize a number of those names. They're in many different industry sectors. We started off with a larger concentration in Bangalore to begin with, and with Sucharita in Bangalore, that was where we initially started. Those companies are so excited about the concept of certification of strong women-owned businesses with scalable businesses who can become suppliers either to them or their tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers. Also creating linkages with other certified women's business enterprises in other countries. And Sucharita will be talking more about the process of We Connect India, so I will not say much about that. We Connect, Quantum Leaps, BPW International, that's Business and Professional Women's International, the International Women's Coffee Alliance, the Women International in Textile and Apparel, and several other groups began working with the International Trade Center, which is, as Sandhya said, a joint agency of the United Nations and the World Trade Organization. And 3 of us in particular, the ITC Women in Trade Program, Quantum Leaps, and We Connect International, wrote something in 2010 called Did Not Only Hyderabad Proud, but India Proud. So next year we're going to be meeting in, next year on sectors, ICT, business process outsourcing, and telecom. Telecom was added this year, it was not there last year. Trade facilitation is another area. We had 2 sectors last year that were basically amalgamated, and one was construction, which sort of grew into including mining also, because there were a lot of construction-related things. Another important area was clean and green tech. We had some fabulous Indian companies in those particular sectors. Trade facilitation was another area where we had a lot of excellent companies. One area that we're potentially looking at this coming year in 2013 is tourism, because there are many women-owned businesses in tourism in many countries, and so that is one that we're also quite interested in. We hope that at some point in the future, as we rotate every year to a different country, that India will be one of the countries. We've had some preliminary discussions with the government of India. This is a diplomatic issue that needs to be discussed between the central government and the ITC at the diplomatic level. But we're hoping that at some point in the not too distant future, we'll have a WVEF in India. There's one other important initiative. I should mention I'm the lead consultant for the Women in Trade initiative to get women vendors into the global supply chain. I was last policies to the Small Business Administration, which is like the MSME ministry, to the Congress and to the President of the United States. So we did a roadmap to sort of update those things because the original legislation was 1988. Right now we're looking at implementing roadmaps to 2020 with policy recommendations, also dealing with those topics as well. Also technology, innovation, and sustainability. And boy, is sustainability and supply chains ever an important issue. Multinationals on access to markets with India. They are very interested in having the next roadmap to 2020 and beyond done in India. We will be working with women's business associations in a number of cities.